Family, friends, believers, and dreamers alike, I want to start by asking you one question. Have you ever felt like there was something more, a blessing just beyond your reach, something that could change everything about your life? Well, let me tell you something there is. There's a power available to you right now that can elevate you above the ordinary and take you into the extraordinary. But here's the catch. You need to learn how to walk in divine favor. Yes, divine favor, the favor of the Most High God. And this favor is not for the chosen few. It's for anyone who's ready to shift their mindset, take action, and step into their destiny. This is not a message for the faint-hearted. It's certainly not for those who are just going through the motions. I'm talking to the ones who are ready for the next level, the ones who are tired of walking in the same circles, who are tired of the struggle, and who are ready to walk in a favor that will break chains, open doors, and position them for a blessing that the world cannot give or take away. If you want to know how to walk in divine favor, if you're tired of waiting and you're ready to claim what is rightfully yours, then you need to stay with me, because the revelation that God has for you today is going to change your life. Divine favor is a concept that transcends human understanding. It's not just about receiving what you deserve based on your actions or deeds. It's about experiencing a supernatural blessing that is beyond what you could ever earn. This favor is God's unmerited grace, his decision to show kindness and love to his children regardless of their flaws or imperfections. When you walk in divine favor, you're not simply walking in the outcomes of your own hard work, but in a realm where God's hand is undeniably at work in your life, directing, protecting, and providing in ways that surpass what seems possible. To understand divine favor, you must first recognize that it operates outside the rules of earthly merit. The world works on a system of earning where success is based on effort, skill, or sometimes luck. But divine favor doesn't fit into that mold. It's not about your abilities or your past. It's about God's plan for your life. When God chooses to favor you, doors that were once closed open wide, relationships that seemed impossible form, and opportunities appear where none existed before. It's a grace that flows not because of your righteousness, but because of his purpose in your life. In the Bible, we see countless examples of people who walked in divine favor. Joseph sold into slavery, imprisoned for something he didn't do, but elevated to a place of great power because of God's favor. David, a simple shepherd boy, anointed to be king, and though he faced countless challenges, God's favor rested upon him. These stories reveal something crucial. Favor doesn't always look like prosperity or peace in the traditional sense. Favor can show up in the most unlikely places and during the most difficult times, and it often makes sense to the world. But when God's favor is on you, it doesn't matter what the circumstances say, what God has ordained will come to pass. You must also understand that divine favor is not limited to the elite or to those who are perceived as perfect. Many times we disqualify ourselves from favor because we look at our failures and mistakes. But God's favor isn't a result of your perfection. It's a reflection of his love and his grace toward you. It's a favor that lifts you even when you feel unworthy and takes you places that you could never go on your own. Favor doesn't follow perfection, it follows purpose. And God, who created you with a plan and a destiny, pours out his favor on you to fulfill that purpose. This kind of favor requires a mindset shift. Instead of striving and struggling to achieve success on your own terms, you must learn to lean into God's will and trust in his timing. Divine favor doesn't come from pushing through life with sheer willpower. It comes from surrendering to God's plan and allowing him to take the lead. When you align yourself with God's purpose, favor follows. The key is to position yourself to receive it, being in the right place spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, to recognize that God's favor is always present, even when you don't see it. You may not always understand why things happen the way they do, but trust that his favor is guiding you toward a future that is far greater than what you could ever imagine. Walking in divine favor means believing that God is at work in every area of your life, orchestrating events, connecting you with the right people, and opening the doors that no one can shut. It's a favor that goes beyond the natural and reaches into the supernatural, bringing about change that's impossible without God's intervention. Walking in divine favor begins with obedience. The very foundation of favor is built on your willingness to align yourself with God's will for your life. When you choose to obey God, you are not simply following a set of rules or guidelines. You are stepping into a relationship that invites His divine blessing. God's favor is not something that can be forced or manipulated. It is the natural outcome of submitting to His direction, trusting in His plan, and yielding to His authority. In the scriptures, obedience is closely tied to blessings. God has always required His people to trust Him and follow His commandments, not out of obligation, but as an act of faith and devotion. In return, He pours out His favor, showering His blessings upon those who choose to honor Him through obedience. But what does it mean to obey God? It's not just about following religious rituals or ticking boxes to meet expectations. Obedience to God requires a deep level of commitment. It involves listening to His voice, responding to His calling, and aligning your actions with His purpose, even when it's difficult. The world may tell you that success comes through sheer effort or by following the path of least resistance, but God's favor is activated when you choose to walk according to His will, no matter how counterintuitive it may seem. This level of obedience goes beyond just being obedient in the easy moments. It is most evident when things are challenging. It's easy to follow God when everything is going well, but real obedience is tested in the trials of life. When life seems uncertain, when obstacles arise, or when the road ahead looks rough, the choice to obey becomes even more crucial. It's in these moments that divine favor becomes most powerful. It's in your obedience through hardship that God's favor shines the brightest, because it demonstrates a trust in God that surpasses human understanding. There's a clear pattern in the Bible. When God's people chose obedience, they walked in favor. Take Abraham, for example. God told him to leave everything familiar into a land He would show him. Abraham didn't know where he was going, but he obeyed. And because of his faithfulness, God made him the father of many nations. Or think of Noah, who obeyed God's command to build the ark even when no one understood or believed in what he was doing. His obedience in the face of ridicule led to his preservation and the continuation of God's plan. These examples show us that when you obey God, even when it doesn't make sense or when you face resistance, He honors that obedience with favor that takes you beyond your current limitations. Obedience isn't always about the grand gestures or monumental decisions. It's often in the small daily acts of surrender. It's about cultivating a lifestyle where your first response is to seek God's will and follow His direction in all things, whether big or small. When you are obedient in the little things, you position yourself to receive even greater blessings. God is watching how you handle the little moments, and it is in those moments that He prepares you for the bigger doors He wants to open in your life. Obedience may not always lead to instant results or an immediate visible manifestation of favor, but rest assured, God is always at work behind the scenes. Your obedience lays the groundwork for favor to manifest in ways you might not even see yet. Walking in divine favor requires trusting that God knows best, even when you can't see the full picture. His plan is always greater than your own. And when you obey Him, you align yourself with a blessing that is far beyond anything you could achieve on your own. To walk in divine favor, you must learn to overcome fear with faith. Fear is one of the greatest obstacles that prevents many from stepping into the fullness of what God has for them. Fear causes you to doubt your abilities, question your worth, and second-guess your decisions. It keeps you stuck, hesitant, and unwilling to move forward, even when God is calling you to take a step of faith. Fear tells you that you're not good enough, that you're too small or too weak to accomplish something significant. But faith tells you that with God, all things are possible. Faith is the antidote to fear, and when you walk in divine favor, you must have the courage to move in faith, trusting that God will make a way even when you can't see it. Faith overcomes fear because it shifts your focus from the limitations of the natural world to the limitless power of God. It's not about pretending that fear doesn't exist or ignoring the challenges in front of you. Faith doesn't erase fear, it empowers you to move forward despite it. When you choose to trust God, even when the path ahead seems uncertain, you step into a realm where fear cannot hold you back. Your faith becomes the lens through which you see every situation, no longer defined by doubt, but by the belief that God is bigger than any obstacle or challenge you may face. This kind of faith is not passive, it requires action. It means stepping out into the unknown even when you don't have all the answers. It's trusting God enough to take risks, to follow his guidance even when you can't predict the outcome. Think about the story of Peter walking on water. As long as Peter kept his eyes on Jesus, he was able to walk on water without fear. The moment he took his focus off Jesus and looked at the waves, fear began to overwhelm him. Walking in divine favor requires keeping your focus on God and his promises, not on the storms around you. When you allow fear to dictate your decisions, you'll find yourself paralyzed and stuck in a place of inaction. But when you choose faith, you activate the favor of God and step into the fullness of his plan for your life. Fear often arises when we feel out of control, but faith is the confidence that God is in control. It's the assurance that he is leading you in the right direction, even when you don't fully understand the journey. When you have faith, you are able to trust that God's plan is always better than your own, and that even in moments of uncertainty, he is working all things together for your good. Faith allows you to walk through doors that would otherwise be closed, face challenges that seem insurmountable, and overcome obstacles that appear impossible. With God's favor, there is no fear strong enough to hold you back. Moreover, walking in faith allows you to access God's power in ways that you can't when you're gripped by fear. Faith is the currency of the kingdom, and it opens the door for God to do the miraculous in your life. You can't access the fullness of God's favor if you are constantly being held hostage by fear. Fear limits your vision and keeps you from seeing the opportunities that God is placing before you. Faith, on the other hand, enlarges your vision and enables you to see what is possible through God's power. When you choose faith over fear, you break free from the chains that hold you back and allow God to do what only he can do. Faith requires persistence. There will be times when the fear tries to creep back in, when doubts resurface, and when the enemy tries to convince you that you're not qualified or capable of walking in the favor God has promised. But in those moments, faith calls you to stand firm, to keep moving forward, and to trust that God is always with you, never leaving you or forsaking you. When you walk in faith, you're not walking alone. You're walking with the creator of the universe, the one who holds all things in his hands, guiding you every step of the way. And as you continue to trust him, you will see his favor unfold in ways that are far greater than you could have imagined. To walk in divine favor, it is essential to position yourself properly. Favor doesn't always come randomly or by chance. The deliberate positioning that must take place spiritually and mentally for you to receive the blessings that God has in store for you. It's about being in the right place at the right time with the right mindset. Just as a farmer prepares the soil before planting, you must prepare your heart and mind to receive what God has ordained for your life. God's favor is already available to you, but it's your responsibility to position yourself in a way that allows you to walk in it. Positioning yourself for divine favor begins with aligning your life with God's will. This means being in tune with his voice and being obedient to the direction he is leading you. Sometimes God will lead you to places and situations that don't immediately make sense, but it's important to trust his guidance. He knows the way even when you don't. If you want to walk in favor, you must be willing to go where he leads, even when it's uncomfortable or unfamiliar. This requires surrender or willingness to let go of your own plans and trust that God's plan is far greater than anything you could imagine. One of the most crucial aspects of positioning yourself for favor is cultivating a heart of gratitude. Gratitude unlocks the door to God's blessings. When you choose to be thankful for what you already have, no matter how small it may seem, you position yourself to receive more. Gratitude shifts your focus from what you lack to what you have, and in doing so, it opens the door to greater favor. When you are content and grateful in your current season, you show God that you are ready for the next level. He is more likely to bless those who are faithful and thankful, knowing that they will steward his blessings well. It's also vital to position yourself mentally. This involves changing the way you think and see the world. A mindset of abundance instead of scarcity opens you up to God's favor. You must believe that you are worthy of his blessings, not because of your own goodness, but because he is a generous and loving God who desires to bless his children. When you embrace the mindset that you are positioned for greatness and that God has already equipped you with everything you need, you will begin to walk with a confidence that attracts favor. Your mindset will determine the opportunities that come your way. If you think small, you will live small. But if you believe in the fullness of what God has in store for you, you will begin to see doors open that you never thought possible. Sometimes positioning yourself for favor requires taking bold steps of faith. God often calls us out of our comfort zones to take risks and step into new territory. This could mean pursuing a new job, starting a business, moving to a new place, or simply stepping out in faith to follow God's leading. The more you trust God's plan and step out in obedience, the more you will experience his favor in your life. Positioning yourself for favor also means seeking out opportunities to grow and develop in your spiritual life. The more you invest in your relationship with God, the more you will see his favor manifest in your life. This can include spending time in prayer, reading the word, and surrounding yourself with people who encourage and support your spiritual growth. Your environment plays a significant role in positioning yourself for favor. Being in a place of worship, fellowship, and community opens the door for God's favor to flow freely in your life. Surrounding yourself with positive influences and people who share your faith will strengthen your walk with God and help you stay focused on his purpose for your life. Additionally, being in alignment with the right people can help you open doors of opportunity and favor. God often uses relationships to elevate you, to introduce you to people who can help you reach your next level. Positioning yourself means surrounding yourself with people who push you toward your destiny, who believe in you, and who will challenge you to grow into the person God has called you to be. Positioning yourself for divine favor is a process. It requires intentional action, faith, and a willingness to align your life with God's will. But when you make the decision to prepare your heart, mind, and environment for his blessings, you open yourself up to experiences of favor that you could never achieve on your own. Favor is waiting for you, but it's up to you to position yourself to receive it. When you do, God will pour out his blessings in ways you never thought possible. One of the key elements to walking in divine favor is living with a spirit of humility. Humility is not about thinking less of yourself, but about thinking of yourself less. It's a posture of heart that acknowledges God as the source of every good thing in your life, and it keeps you grounded no matter how much success or blessing you experience. When you walk in humility, you create an environment in which God's favor can flourish. Humility allows you to accept that God's plan is greater than your own, and it positions you to be open to receiving his guidance, direction, and blessings. Humility is closely tied to servanthood. When you serve others, whether it's in small ways or through large acts of generosity, you are demonstrating that your life is not about self-promotion, but about honoring God and blessing those around you. Jesus himself exemplified humility, washing the feet of his disciples and serving others even when he was the Son of God. He demonstrated that true greatness is not found in being served, but in serving. When you live with a heart that seeks to serve others, you open the door for God to serve you with his favor. When you live humbly, you position yourself as a vessel that God can use to bless the world around you. Humility also requires a willingness to learn and grow. It's easy to become proud when you achieve success, but walking in humility means recognizing that there is always more to learn and that you can grow in your faith and character every day. Pride comes when you start to believe that you have all the answers or that you no longer need God's guidance. But humility calls you to a place of constant growth and surrender, acknowledging that you need God every step of the way. When you remain teachable and open to God's correction, you create space for his favor to flow into your life in even greater ways. It's important to understand that humility does not mean weakness. Some may think that being humble means being passive or being walked over, but in truth, true humility requires strength. It takes strength to trust God with your plans, to yield to His timing, and to submit your will to His. Humility means that you acknowledge your own limitations while recognizing the limitless power of God to work through you. When you walk in humility, you surrender your pride and ego and allow God to elevate you in His timing and according to His plan. One of the most powerful aspects of humility is that it creates favor not only with God, but also with people. The Bible teaches that when you humble yourself before the Lord, He will exalt you. But it doesn't stop there. Humility opens the door to favor with others as well. People are naturally drawn to humility because it's a characteristic that reflects the heart of God. When you are humble, you build trust, respect, and favor with those around you, whether in the workplace, in your community, or within your relationships. Humility enables you to work well with others, to put others before yourself, and to show kindness and understanding even when it's not easy. This attitude of humility can bring opportunities and connections into your life that you would not otherwise experience. Living with humility also requires a constant reliance on God's grace. Humility isn't about focusing on what you lack, but recognizing that everything you have is a gift from God. The blessings you enjoy, the talents you possess, and the opportunities you encounter are all by His grace. When you live with a humble heart, you acknowledge that it is not by your own strength or merit that you are able to succeed, but by the favor of God. This humility opens the door for God to continue blessing and favoring you, because He can trust that you will use what He gives you for His glory and the good of others. When you walk in humility, you also embrace a lifestyle of gratitude. A humble heart is a grateful heart, one that recognizes that every good thing in your life is a gift from God. Gratitude aligns your spirit with God's favor and opens you up to receiving even more of His blessings. God resists the proud, but He gives grace to the humble, and this grace manifests as favor in your life. When you choose humility, you are making a declaration that you trust God completely, that you know His favor is not based on your abilities or achievements, but on His goodness. And this is the key to walking in the divine favor that God desires to pour out upon you. Walking in divine favor requires you to have a deep understanding of the power of persistence. Life is full of challenges, obstacles, and moments of doubt, but the key to accessing God's favor is to keep moving forward, even when it feels like nothing is happening. Persistence is the fuel that keeps you going when the journey gets tough, when the road seems long, and when progress appears slow. It's the ability to press on Him and trust that God's plan is at work, even when you can't see the results right away. The favor of God isn't always instantaneous. It's often a reward for consistent, faithful effort over time. In many instances, the favor you receive from God is a result of your persistence in pursuing His will. There are many stories in the Bible that highlight the importance of persistence, such as the story of the woman who kept petitioning the unjust judge until he answered her request. She didn't give up when the judge initially refused. She kept asking. In the end, her persistence paid off. Similarly, when you persist in seeking God's guidance, staying faithful to His word, and continuing to work towards the goals He's placed in your heart, His favor begins to manifest. The key is to remain consistent even when the results don't come immediately, trusting that God is orchestrating everything in your favor behind the scenes. Persistence is also about maintaining a positive attitude in the face of adversity. When the storms of life come, it's easy to become discouraged or lose faith. But when you hold on to God's promises and continue to press forward with hope and determination, you demonstrate the kind of faith that attracts His favor. God rewards those who persevere through trials and challenges, knowing that they are learning and growing along the way. Each challenge you face becomes an opportunity to build your faith, to develop character, and to prepare for the blessings that are on the way. The more persistent you are, the more God is able to trust you with greater levels of favor. One of the key aspects of persistence is maintaining your focus. It's easy to get distracted by what others are doing or by the temporary setbacks and delays that come your way. But to walk in divine favor, you must keep your eyes on the prize, on God's promises and the calling He has placed on your life. Persistence requires discipline, and it requires you to stay committed to the vision God has given you, regardless of the circumstances. When you maintain your focus and continue to press forward, you open the door for God to work in ways that will surpass your expectations. Persistence also means being willing to try again after failure. It's important to recognize that failure is not the end, it's simply a step in the process of reaching your goals. When you stumble, don't give up. Instead, use it as a learning experience and get back up. Each failure is an opportunity for growth, and it teaches you valuable lessons that will equip you for future success. God's favor isn't reserved for those who never fail. It's given those who are willing to keep moving forward, even in the face of setbacks. The Bible is filled with examples of people who faced failure but persisted in following God's plan. And in the end, they saw His favor on their lives in powerful ways. One of the most powerful aspects of persistence is the fact that it keeps you connected to God. The longer you press on in faith, the deeper your relationship with God becomes. Persistence requires that you lean on Him for strength, guidance, and direction. The more you rely on God, the more you recognize His hand at work in every area of your life, and the more favor you will experience. The process of persistence is not just about achieving your goals, it's about growing closer to God and becoming the person He has created you to be. Finally, persistence is an act of trust. By continuing to move forward, despite the obstacles, you are demonstrating that you trust in God's timing and His ability to fulfill His promises. When you remain persistent, you are saying to God, I believe in your plan for my life, and I know that you will bring it to pass in your perfect time. This trust activates God's favor because He honors those who wait on Him and do not give up. The more persistent you are in walking out your calling, the more favor you will experience as God continues to open doors, connect you with the right people, and bless you in ways that can only be attributed to His divine hand.